What's up, guys? Today, I'm going to recap a horror mystery film, The Unholy. Spoilers are coming, so keep your eyes wide open and stay safe. The movie starts with a chilling scene from way back in 1845. We're seeing things from the view of a young woman who's in serious danger. She's being hung from a tree while a group of angry townspeople does something horrifying. They nail a mask onto her face and hold a doll up to her, saying some strange words, almost like a spell, but it doesn't stop there. They light her on fire. Her burned body is left hanging from that tree for hours, marking the start of a very dark story. Present day. In the town of Banfield, Massachusetts, a down-on-his-luck journalist named Jerry Fenn gets a tip about something strange happening nearby. Curious and ready to investigate, he heads out, finding a farmer who believes a cult has marked his cow. But when Jerry takes a closer look, he figures out it's just the farmer's son who painted a big M, like the Metallica symbol. But then, something weird catches Jerry's attention. He hears a strange noise calling him to a nearby tree. When he checks it out, he finds a burnt-up doll, just like the one we saw before in 1845. Carved on it is the date February 31st, 1845, a date that doesn't even exist. Not thinking much of it, Jerry steps on the doll's head and breaks it. That night, as Jerry's leaving town, he nearly crashes his car when he spots a young woman, Alice, standing right in the middle of the road. She slowly walks toward that same tree he had visited earlier. Mumbling something strange, she suddenly passes out. Jerry quickly takes Alice to her uncle's place, Father Hagen's house. Worried, he calls Dr. Natalie Gates for help. When Natalie arrives, she's shocked. Alice is deaf and mute, so there's no way Jerry could have actually heard her speak. Suspicious, Natalie accuses Jerry of trying to hurt Alice. Jerry decides to stay in Banfield, hoping to get a big story with a religious twist. He heads to the local church, where Father Hagen is giving a sermon. Suddenly, Alice stands up after gazing at a statue of the Virgin Mary. Without saying a word, she walks out, and the whole crowd follows her as she heads straight to that mysterious tree. Then something unbelievable happens. Alice speaks. She says she's hearing the voice of Mary herself, who wants everyone to return to the tree the next day. Everyone is stunned since Alice isn't supposed to be able to talk. While Dr. Natalie runs tests to figure out what's going on with Alice, Jerry tries reporting this news to his old boss, Monica Slade, but Monica isn't interested and reminds Jerry he got fired for making up stories. That night, Jerry has a creepy dream of a ghostly woman rising from a nearby creek and crawling out. The next day, everyone in town gathers around the tree, hoping for another miracle. This time, they bring a young boy named Toby, who's unable to walk. Alice, speaking for Mary, tells Toby to stand up and walk. To everyone's shock, he does. The crowd can't believe their eyes, and Jerry quickly captures everything on camera. Overwhelmed, the townspeople start to pray to Mary. Inside the church, something even more chilling happens. The statue of the Virgin Mary begins to cry tears of blood. Jerry meets with Bishop Giles, who has teamed up with Monsignor Delgard, sent by the Vatican to investigate if Alice's actions are truly a miracle. Meanwhile, Alice becomes a media sensation, with reporters and visitors swarming the town. People are even planning to turn the tree into a shrine for all the miracles happening there. That night, Father Hagen heads to the tree alone and spots the burnt doll lying on the ground. As he stares at it, a ghostly figure creeps up behind him, watching his every move. Jerry arranges an interview with Alice, hoping to dig deeper into her strange connection with Mary. During the interview, Alice reveals that Mary knows about Jerry. She says that Mary told her Jerry misses the power he once had with his words. She even claims that Mary saw someone who needed her help. Later, Father Hagen catches up with Jerry for a private talk. He's coughing badly, struggling to breathe because of his emphysema. With a serious tone, he warns Jerry not to use Alice for his own gain and urges him not to exploit her or the strange events happening around her. Jerry is sitting in the church with Delgard, watching as Alice practices singing with Father Hagen. Suddenly, Hagen begins to cough violently and then collapses, struggling to breathe. Jerry quickly calls for an ambulance, but before help arrives, Alice places her hand on Hagen's chest. Incredibly, he starts to breathe normally again, as if nothing had happened. Later, Dr. Natalie takes an X-ray of Hagen and compares it to one from before, showing his condition was once much worse. Now, convinced that Alice has truly healed him, the church declares the tree an official shrine, and the small town of Banfield soon finds itself flooded with curious tourists. Jerry later has a chat with Natalie about the strange doll he found. She explains that these kinds of dolls are meant to bring good luck, but also have a darker purpose. They're said to trap evil spirits, with the impossible date, February 31st, used to keep whatever is inside locked away forever. As they walk past the creek, Jerry sees the ghostly figure again, just like in his dream. He tells Natalie he needs to find Father Hagen. Meanwhile, we see Hagen alone in the church, finishing a cigarette. He heads into the confessional booth and suddenly hears what he thinks is Mary's voice. She accuses him of doubting her miracle, saying that she healed him and he's repaid her with doubt. Hagen steps out, only to come face to face with Mary's ghost, who attacks him. Later, Jerry arrives at the church and finds Hagen's lifeless body hanging, appearing to have taken his own life. As the medics take Hagen's body away, Bishop Giles pulls Jerry aside and asks him to keep quiet about the fact that a priest may have ended his own life. Jerry sits down for another interview with Alice, hoping to get more insight. Later that night, as he reviews the footage, he decides to slow it down to catch every detail. That's when he spots something chilling. Mary's ghost flashes on the screen for just a second, almost hidden in the background. During Father Hagen's funeral, Jerry and Natalie sneak down to the church's basement. There, they find old documents written in Latin about demons and witches. One of the pieces talks about a healer named Mary Elnor, who was known for her abilities but had a dark story. It says that anyone who doubted her would face a terrible fate. The townspeople turned against Mary, and she confessed to working for Satan. In a cruel punishment, they nailed the mask of the Virgin Mary to her face and burned her alive, trapping her spirit in the doll that Jerry broke. While the service is going on, Alice suddenly stands up and tells everyone that Mary wants them to gather at the shrine for a special service. Soon after, Jerry and Natalie are confronted by Mary's ghost, who attacks them. They manage to escape the church just in time, racing off to warn Alice about the danger. Jerry and Natalie head to the Archdiocese of Boston to talk to Bishop Giles and Monsignor Delgard about Hagen's discoveries regarding Mary. While Giles is aware of this dark history, Delgard is surprised and says he never heard about it before. Giles insists he doesn't want anything to interfere with the upcoming service. Later, Jerry continues his research on Mary and discovers something shocking. Before she died, she had a child who was adopted by a man named Nicholas Paget. This means that Alice is actually Mary's descendant. Jerry realizes that Mary made a deal with the devil to keep living through her children and their children forever. As Jerry puts the pieces together, Mary's ghost attacks him again, but this time Delgard steps in to help and wards her off. Now, he is convinced that Jerry's claims are true and that they must do something to stop Mary. As Bishop Giles gets everything ready for the shrine service, Monsignor Delgard decides to help Jerry and Natalie at the church. They plan to bless the doll and try to return Mary's spirit into it. When Delgard lights the doll on fire, the flames quickly spread up to a big cross on the wall. Suddenly, the cross falls down and impales Delgard, setting him on fire. Jerry and Natalie are horrified and quickly run out of the church, heading straight to the service to warn everyone about what just happened. The service is in full swing, and Mary is ready to absorb the townspeople's faith to become more powerful. Jerry and Natalie rush in and realize that the only way to stop Mary is to make everyone doubt her power. Jerry boldly tells the crowd that he faked the whole thing and that Alice isn't really a healer. He makes up stories about how Alice was able to hear and how Toby walked, saying those were just medical effects. With Natalie backing him up, the crowd starts to boo and turn against Mary. This makes Mary very angry, and she begins to set the tree on fire. As the people run for their lives, Mary's ghost appears and tries to attack. Toby suddenly loses control of his legs again, and Natalie quickly carries him out to safety. Bishop Giles tries to stop the spirit, but Mary presses her hand against his chest and disintegrates him into nothing. When Mary comes after Jerry, Alice bravely stands in the way and takes the hit. Since Mary has now killed her last descendant, her spirit can no longer live on, and she screams as she fades into nothingness. Jerry holds Alice's lifeless body and tearfully prays to God for her survival. Suddenly, Alice wakes up, and Jerry pulls her into a tight hug, feeling relieved and thankful. Jerry and Natalie take Alice to Hagen's grave to honor him. Even though Alice is deaf-mute again, Jerry finds a way to communicate with her. He tells Natalie that he is amazed Alice survived because she had no pulse and wasn't breathing when he held her. Natalie thinks maybe God really did perform a miracle after all. After they leave, we see a verse from the Bible, Matthew 7:15. "Beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves." The last thing we see is the statue of the Virgin Mary crying blood once more, leaving us with a chilling feeling that the story may not be over yet. Which movie should we recap next? Drop your suggestions in the comments below, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more movie recaps. Thanks for watching. Produced by Warner Talks.